have achieved good results with these measures is also evidenced by the fact that in the third quarter of 2022, unemployment decreased by 15.4%, mainly in the population with secondary and higher education. I would like to point out that compared to last year, the number of unemployed women has decreased by 20%, while the number of unemployed men has decreased by only 10.6%. Recognizing the role of women in the economy, the coordination body for gender equality of the government of the Republic of Serbia, of which I am the president, participate in projects whose goals include economic empowerment of women. Improving knowledge and skills directly contributes to their better position on the labor market and creating opportunities to start their own business. The first analysis of the share of unpaid work in the gross social product were also done. It is the first step towards recognizing the value of unpaid domestic work, which is mainly done by women. Despite the encouraging developments and progress achieved, we still have a long way to go. It is necessary to cooperate as closely as possible with international partners, the civil and private sector, as well as the media, which play an important role in building a society free from any form of discrimination. Ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, when we talk about women in the highest government positions, a global survey conducted by the United Nations agency, UN Women, shows that if maintaining our current rate of progress, gender parity of heads of state and government will not be achieved for another 130 years. We cannot wait that long. If we want to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, we must redouble our efforts towards gender equality. I hope that my experiences and those of other women who are with us today and who managed to break the glass ceiling and push the boundaries in their society will be an inspiration to other young women that they can do the same. I believe that through our life and work, as well as through experience in management, diplomacy, changing social norms, and changing political will, we have shown that women make a difference, a big and essential one. We have shown that we can and will. Now we just have to persevere in that fight and empower other women to do the same. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. I'll bring the question back to Virginia. What do you see as the biggest challenge facing women in leadership today? It's particularly from a publication background.
The biggest challenge for women today?
In leadership, yeah. Leadership.
Leadership.
Yeah, and in your case, in the field of publications.
Well, I think the natural human state of us in our highest state is if we see something wrong or an injustice, we want to fix it. So the crises that I saw as I grew up were three. The first, I majored in world religions in college, and I did a curriculum and other subjects too, was that I couldn't stand the way people stereotyped other people's traditions and their countries. And it just broke my heart to have traveled throughout the world and to have studied the beautiful faith traditions and the art and the architecture of all my human brothers and sisters, and then hear the various faith traditions saying we are the only one, as if anyone has a monopoly on the truth, or as if God would trick everyone except your group. So I didn't know what to do about that. And that was one question. And the other was little children, I have 4 grandchildren, are now, I am terrified for for them. It's a yes, I was going to show something. The audiovisual people.
Can we have someone for the audiovisual team?
Yeah, it'd be a shame not to see pictures. Pictures are more fun. Anyway, while they try to fix this. So with, there it is.
Yeah.
Oh, look, I can even see it. All right. So to start with, the situation with other cultures and other traditions. Originally, I was raised in America where everyone hated Islam, and now it's more than ever. And then having traveled in the Muslim world and studied in Egypt for 10 years at Azhar and visited the Muslims all over, I could see people had stereotyped them into 2 or 3 terrible things. So anyway, after our studies in Egypt, we created the Islamic Text Society in Cambridge, England, because in the 60s and 70s, all the books of universities were also written by the Orientalists who despised Islam as well, honestly. So we created this society and began publishing beautiful editions of all the great Islamic spiritual classics. And then, let me just bring up a picture here, see if it works. And then in 1990, I came home to, it doesn't move. Okay, yeah, I came home to Kentucky to take care of my parents, and I founded Fons Vitae, it means Fountain of Life. And we, of course, did some, continued our beautiful editions of Islamic titles. Next.
Can I just jump back a moment? You said that you spent 10 years studying at Al-Azhar.
Yes.
What took you to Egypt, especially back then in the
In the
late
60s?
60s, yeah.
Well, honestly, I was looking for a spiritual path and a practice. And I married a Venezuelan film director, and we sailed on a freighter to Morocco and drove to Cairo. And we met these beautiful people in the desert of Algeria who took us in. And my daughter Hajar was born in Libya at the time of Malik Idris, Allah yarhamu, delivered by Bedouins. And then we entered Egypt during the '67 war and started studying then.
That sounds like an extremely long journey to
It
go
was.
by ship.
It was. And so also, as you can see, we publish beautiful volumes of sacred art, calligraphy, culture, and history. I'm not able to make this go. Next, and as you see here, we do interfaith titles, you know, Buddhism, Hinduism. We do videos showing many, many subjects for university classes. Next. This is a series you'll see here this series took about 35 years to bring out. There was a famous writer in America named Thomas Merton, and he became a Catholic monk and moved into a monastery in Kentucky. I'm from Kentucky, Muhammad Ali Clay and Kentucky Fried Chicken. You're looking at it. So he came to this monastery and began corresponding as a Catholic with people of all traditions in the world. As you can see, Merton and Hinduism, Buddhism, Confucianism, everything. So I got scholars throughout the world, and because he's so well respected, and I thought it was wonderful to show a Catholic's relationship, a famous one, so with all of those traditions. And every Sunday he gave lectures to the novices. The last 2 years of his life, he only talked about Islam. So that was what initiated the series. But that series has gone on to do congresses and conferences, and we have a Center for Interfaith Relations in Louisville, and we have annual congresses and bring people of all faith traditions. Next. Then, of course, we're very interested in, let me see what I'm looking at here. Oh, the book, The Spiritual Ascent, you're seeing right there. That book is about this thick, and it takes every level of the spiritual life, and it shows what everyone and every tradition has said about everything. So you can read, let's say you're interested in mercy, you can see what everyone from every tradition, whether including Plato and Shakespeare. So it's a way of embracing our wonderful, unified, beautiful humanity. Next. And then we have a women's spirituality series. We have many women scholars who translate. As you can see, here we have a collection on the Virgin Mary, a book on Eva de Vitré-Meyervetch, the French woman who translated Rumi, learned Persian, and books about her. Next. Then we do ecological. The book you're looking at here was written in the 10th century in Arabic. It was translated into Latin for a Christian king in the 12th century, and the edition we did was from the Hebrew edition. A rabbi translated it, and a Muslim lady from India illustrated these beautiful illustrations. Then you see we also promote dialogue between the traditions. Here you see Shalom, Salam, Shalom, Salam. A wonderful Hebrew scholar showed the incredible richness that the two traditions gave to each other. I can't see around the clock. If you could go back just, it doesn't matter, you can stay there. So we're very interested in these world's traditions talking to each other and having dialogue. What you see there is Prince Ghazi of Jordan. He and the Dalai Lama collaborated to do a book called The Common Ground. And that book led to many things. The Dalai Lama asked if Hans Vitae would bring together in San Francisco Islamic leaders and dignitaries from the whole world who gathered for a dialogue, and part of the reason was I wanted to see Muslims see that their leaders were open to other traditions, and this was followed by a huge interfaith event. Next.
Sorry, what were the outcomes that came out of that meeting between the Dalai Lama and the Muslim scholars?
Enormous love. Enormous love. You have to realize, I've been to Tibet, and there are a huge Muslim population in Tibet. They're called the ornaments of Lhasa. And also, the Dalai Lama said, he said, the Muslims are being trashed by the media, and he would be a defender. And Senegal invited him to come to meet them. I mean, it's ongoing, that relationship.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. And then, of course, we're very interested in children's books. Is that what's up there? No, that's the meetings in San Francisco. All right, you can see some of them there. Okay, next. Now, we're very focused on children because these are our future, and they need to be formed in such a way that they are self-observant and self-corrective, and they have a sense of their inner dignity and their true selves. This checklist for compassion you're seeing there, I worked with about 140 schools in Louisville, Kentucky, and had the children contribute essays and art and volunteer situations, and it was given out to all the schools. It was really amazing to see. I just have to tell you something funny. One of the children said, an act of compassion is, if your mother is texting at a stoplight, let her know when the light changes. I know, I thought that very funny. Anyway, next, please. Now, we do lots of children's literature. Here you see the life of Imam al-Ghazali and other books that we've been doing. Next. And then we started, if you can go back one, please. We started doing the Ghazali's 40 books back in 1980 in Cambridge when we opened the Islamic Text Society. Why Ghazali? Because this is really interesting, everyone. When Islam was only around 400 years old, he could already see that so much was being emphasized on the externals and the legalistic and exclusion. And he wrote 40 volumes in which he put back into the Islamic faith, from what is knowledge to death, all the inner transformative spiritual details that give us all an inner life and strengthen our innate dignity. So as you see, we've been translating it. Of the 40 volumes, by the way, and this is huge, we have the last 8 under translation now. So in my lifetime, inshallah, I'll see all 40. Next. These are some of the books that are coming out right now. Now, the next question came. You all have heard of Hamza Yusuf. He's one of my most adorable friends. And he called up and he said, you know, we have to do something for the children. The way their religion's being presented is excluding others. It's not giving them a sense of their inner dignity. It's not giving them what they need, the meaning and purpose. and putting them in charge of their own spiritual lives, not being told by mother, do this, do that, be kind, share. So what we did was, next slide, we took the first 7 books of the Ihya Ulumuddin and have made them into children's books, workbooks, and full curricula. We got a grant for just under $1 million from the Templeton Foundation, and other people donated too. These books are brought out in giant form. The set you're looking at there weighs about 35 pounds. They're so beautifully produced. But honestly, these are really foundational, and this material is universal. Don't think because this happens to be an Islamic scholar, this material doesn't apply to absolutely every one of our lives. All of us have prayer, it doesn't matter what, but his insights are so brilliant. It's, in fact, one of his insights that I got from the book of charity changed my life. We're all told we should be humble. Aren't we told that?
Yes,
What
we are.
tradition does it tell us to be humble? If I just say to you, say to be humble, how would you just be humble, right? What? Well, listen to this. So in the story, the little children are on the merry-go-round, and they notice some children don't have the money to ride on the merry-go-round, and they rush to their teacher, Hajj Abdullah, in the magic, secret, forgotten garden, and they say, why are some people rich and some people poor? And then he explains to them, he would say to you and to me, did either of you give yourself, did you choose your parents? Did I give myself my skills? Did I give myself my station in life? Did I give myself, actually anything, the things, everything we are, all of our skills and our connections in this world, your connections, my connections, all of these are on loan. They're a trust and a manna. And therefore, we must all look carefully at what we've been given and use that to address the crises that come to our own doorstep, because we're given everything we need. We just look out the door and there it is. And for the younger women here, I only started Fons Vitae when I was 54 years old. Life begins at 50, by the way. Your children are finally going to be what they are, and you can begin. And I'm 80 years old and nothing happened, Okay, next slide. So also, the Children's Project has a wonderful children's website. This golden heart crosses the screen and encounters greed and hypocrisy and all the rest. Next. And the children's website also is a place where they post their videos, where they act out doing the wrong thing and then correcting it, experiencing doing it correctly. And then also one of the techniques is the golden heart. Do you see these hearts here? Every child draws his heart. He really is the heart. And Ghazali opens the book of knowledge and says, did you all know there are 2 kinds of learning? And the children say, what? Yes, regular learning and the special real learning, which is how to polish your heart. You have 2 hearts, right? The physical and the real one. And so polish the heart. And how do you polish it? Well, there are problems every day. There are disappointments. Things didn't work out. There's an upset, but all of these are opportunities to polish the heart. So children draw their own hearts, and they put dots on them, and they wash them off, so it gives them something concrete to work with. And it's so important, next slide, please, that we have them play acting out all of the virtues, because you see, you can tell your children share, and it just sounds like it's got to be horrible because mother's saying to do it. But if you have them play, oh, I'm not going to share. You can't touch my truck. And then finally, yes, I'd love you to touch this. You may have this. It feels different. And they discover on their own by practicing all of these things that it's coming from a higher place. It's coming from their golden heart. So next slide. I think we're just about at the end here. Yes, go back one, please. The Ghazali Project, as you can see, has gone into zillions of languages. I don't know what that is. One slide before. Yes, it's in Arabic, 2 volumes, Urdu, of course, all the European languages, even Finnish and Danish, Uzbek, it's going into Uzbek, Russian, Swahili. It's absolutely astounding to see how it's run right now. Okay, and that's Hamza Yusuf, my dear friend, who is the supporter and worker with me on the project. Next. And finally, next slide. Oh, that's just showing some of the language it has gone in. Actually, the Urdu illustrations in that volume are better than my illustrations that I had done. Next. Now, I just want to say that we also have these Ghazali schools all over the world. Next slide. The project was actually launched in Morocco. The Moroccans honored Fons Vitae, I think in 2015, but for being preserving the spiritual heritage of the Islamic spiritual heritage in the West. And so the project was launched there. And of course, the Moroccans are all into Ghazali now too. Next. And then in Gambia, I presented it at a conference, and there's a Gambian school involved as well. Yes. Next one. In Indonesia, we've had a big presentation. It's gone entirely into the Indonesian language. Next. And this is what really matters to me, everybody. All right. We're not just publishing books and getting out and giving lectures and helping with school classes and all the rest. We do a huge prison outreach, not just prison libraries, but directly with prisoners, and many of them stay with us for life. They get out and they still want the books. We like that. And here you can see there's a Gambian orphanage that just asked for 10 sets of them. You know how happy that makes me. But the thing that makes me most happy is finally, after 6 or 7 years, we've talked to the United Nations in Amman, Jordan, and we're going to do the Arabic edition. Will be made a special edition for the children in those camps because the lessons give them a way to handle their incredible misfortune. And then I think that's the last picture. Let's see what's next. All right, so I'd like to end by saying one thing. There was that I'm making an invitation to all of you. We're going to work together. I see there are at least 20 countries here. Cameroons, I mean, this is amazing. You know, Cambodia. So here's what I'm asking you to do. I want each of you ladies to think of someone in your culture, in your religion, whatever religion you are, who's a storyteller. Because the book we're bringing out now is beyond universal. It's book 24. It's called The Bane of the Tongue. Bane meaning scourge, most terrible thing. And Ghazali points out language is a precious treasure that we can have a thought and write it. We have language. We can praise. And the fact that we're now destroying our language with low language. But he said the tongue is a delicate little organ, but it has more power than any other because its reach is so vast. And it's very dangerous and a slip of the tongue. And he goes into 20 things that when you all read this, you won't believe it. And I'd like 20 people to bring me storytellers. 20 things that if you shouldn't even think of doing it. We tell our children, don't argue. Oh, we don't explain it to them, do we? In arguing what's going on, I'm saying, I'm right and you're wrong. You're ignorant, right? And suddenly, you can feel the nafs. I'm trying to overpower you. You not only hurt people with your language, you are harming your eternal essence. It's totally, we're very noble, and it's very degrading to use a bad word. If I have a conversation with my sister here, and she shares something, and then I pass that information on, I have broken a sacred trust. Never mind backbiting. But Ghazali brings out something which is really scary, that we're all backbiting all the time with ourselves. We have our true, honest, eternal, real, beautiful selves, which is called in different traditions, the fitra in Arabic, the Jesus nature, the Buddha nature, Adama in Hebrew, the self in Hinduism. That self is in all of us, that innate, pure goodness, primordial essence. And honestly, we have to be so careful with that. So what I'd like, I have a great storyline. I'd like all of you, and I think they put up a minute ago my email address, but I have plenty of business cards, and I'd like to, as a result of this conference, that we come together and we create something which works for every child and every parent, and it gives them a tool By the way, just quickly, I took that book, I took all religion out of it, and recently brought it out as a teacher's handbook for the American school system because they've taken the word God out of the school system. And this is done at Teachers College at Columbia University, and that is now out and available. So it can be done for anyone. So I greet you, my blessed sisters, and let's work together and let's remember this beautiful day and work as a team. Thank you very much.
We're also very privileged to have Latifa with us here today, who is the recipient of the Zayed Award for Human Fraternity. Your organization, IMAD, has provided crucial support to at-risk youth and their families. Why did you decide to focus on youth, and what are the factors that lead them to extremism?
D'abord, bonjour à toutes et à tous. Je suis vraiment très honorée de l'invitation de son Excellence, chère Fatima Aboubakar. Je suis vraiment très honorée d'être là. Pourquoi j'ai donné cette chance et ce travail que j'ai fait sur le terrain aujourd'hui? Ça fait à peu près 11 ans. J'ai perdu mon fils sur l'attentat terroriste et je n'ai pas voulu sombrer dans ma souffrance. Je voulais m'élever et d'être debout, parce que mon fils, il a refusé de se mettre à genoux. Et j'avais donné une éducation à mes enfants, il faut toujours rester debout, il ne faut jamais se baisser. Quand on prend une claque, on se lève, et quand on prend une deuxième claque, on se lève. Et c'est comme ça que j'étais éduquée par ma mère, par ma grand-mère. J'ai reçu une éducation vraiment côté musulman, parce que mon grand-père, il était imam, et le deuxième grand-père, il était militaire. Alors, entre la discipline et la religion. Et j'ai grandi dans ce milieu-là, et je voulais le transmettre à mes enfants. Je suis une jeune femme, que je suis née au Maroc, j'ai grandi en Espagne. Je me suis mariée, je suis rentrée en France. J'ai 5 enfants, 4 garçons et une fille. Je suis grand-mère de 4 enfants aujourd'hui. Je suis très fière d'eux. Et j'ai élevé mes enfants avec beaucoup d'amour, beaucoup de tendresse, la présence, c'est important. La table qu'on partage avec nos enfants. La table, il est important qu'on ne parle pas aujourd'hui. Vous savez, quand on est à table, on partage un repas avec nos enfants. On parle, on discute, on échange et on transmet de l'amour autour de cette table. Et on apprend des valeurs et des codes. Comment on explique à nos enfants, même la manière comme ils mangent. Et ça, c'est très important. Ce que j'ai appris, moi, j'ai transmis ça à mes enfants. Et j'étais la mère et la femme la plus heureuse. Et j'ai dit, cette femme qui n'a pas fait beaucoup d'études, parce que mon père, quand j'ai perdu ma mère, il ne m'a pas laissé aller à l'école. Et quand je suis arrivée en France, j'étais beaucoup aidée par des femmes françaises que je n'oublierai jamais. Et grâce à cette femme et les hommes que j'ai rencontrés dans ma vie, j'ai grandi et j'ai donné le sens à mes enfants. Mais il fallait quelqu'un. C'est quelqu'un qui m'a retiré ce bonheur. Mohamed Marrah. C'est un jeune qui était livré à lui-même, qui n'avait pas reçu d'éducation, qu'il était mal entouré. Il avait 23 ans. Il a assassiné 7 victimes. Le premier, c'était mon enfant, mon garçon, mon bébé, mon frère, mon ami. Ahmed, il a refusé de se mettre à genoux. Et j'ai dit de me laisser ce message, il faut que j'aille sur le lieu. C'était important. Et je suis partie à Toulouse pour voir où il est tué mon fils 40 jours après, et je trouvais ces traces de sang au sol et que j'ai frotté moi-même le sang de mon enfant. J'ai crié très fort, une femme, une mère en souffrance. C'est quelqu'un qui peut m'entendre, quelqu'un qui peut m'écouter. J'avais personne. Je ne sais pas ce qu'il m'a pris. J'ai dit, je dois y aller dans ce quartier où il est né, Mohamed Marrah, et pourquoi il a tué mon enfant. Et je me suis trouvée dans ce quartier. Je suis tombée sur des groupes de jeunes et je posais la question, savez-vous où il habite Mohamed Marrah? Et un jeune homme se met à sourire et me dit, Madame, vous ne regardez pas la télé, vous ne lisez pas les journaux? J'ai dit non, je suis la mère du premier soldat qui était assassiné. Comment vous pouvez me l'assassiner la 12e fois? Il me dit, Madame, Mohamed Marrah, c'est un martyr, c'est un héros de l'islam. Il a mis la France à genoux. J'ai dit, mon Dieu, qu'est-ce qui se passe ici? J'ai dit, pourquoi vous dites c'est un martyr? C'est un assassin. Et ces jeunes, ils m'ont cerclé. Je croyais que mon heure est arrivée. J'ai dit, vous me laissez juste prier. S'il faut mourir maintenant, je n'ai pas peur de mourir. J'ai perdu un jeune de 30 ans. Ma moitié, elle est partie. Alors, ce n'est pas un problème. Et ces jeunes, ils m'ont dit, non, madame, regardez, où on habite. Tournez-vous, madame. On est de ce ghetto fermé. La République nous a oubliés. On est complètement perdus, madame. Et j'ai dit, la République, c'est vous. Si vous avez besoin de la chance, c'est à vous de la chercher. Il ne viendra pas vers vous. J'ai dit, vous savez, j'ai créé cette association et je ne savais pas comment travailler. Mais aujourd'hui, je vous tendre la main. Vous êtes l'origine de ma souffrance et moi, je vous tends la main pour vous aider. Et c'est comme ça que j'ai commencé à travailler sur le terrain, de voir une souffrance en France, que je ne le cache pas, je le dis ouvertement. Aujourd'hui, l'islam, il vit très mal en France. Un jeune enfant, il a du mal à dire « je suis musulman ». On dit l'islam, l'islamiste terroriste. Voilà comme on appelle aujourd'hui l'islam en France. Malheureusement, aujourd'hui, il faut travailler tous ensemble. Et je lâche rien. Je n'ai pas une femme qui a fait beaucoup d'études, mais j'ai beaucoup d'expérience et je reste debout. Et je pense, si on se met tous ensemble debout, on arrivera. Il n'y a pas de raison. Parce que la femme est dans la vie, la femme est dans de l'espoir, la femme est dans de l'amour, la femme elle est capable de faire plein de choses, comme ils disent les hommes. La femme elle est plus forte que nous, parce que, je vous le dis ça avec le sourire, les hommes aussi, mais la femme, ils peuvent faire tout. Alors, aujourd'hui, j'ai fait 3 conférences par semaine. Je vais dans les prisons pour avertir, éviter ces jeunes de tomber dans ces sectes terroristes. Je travaille dans les écoles aussi, c'est très important, pour donner l'espoir à cette jeunesse et dire « démarrez votre moteur ». Parce que si vous ne le démarrez pas, vous, il n'y aura personne qui vous démarre ce moteur. Alors démarre ce moteur, jeune homme. Regarde-moi dans les yeux, regarde cette femme, regarde mon parcours que je vous raconte. Alors je viens de loin et j'ai donné 5 enfants. Regardez tout ce que j'ai fait. Regardez où je suis réussi aujourd'hui. Alors vous êtes capable de réussir. Il faut avoir confiance en soi. Il faut vraiment voir la volonté. Je travaille aussi avec les parents parce que l'éducation, il s'est arrêté quelque part. L'éducation aujourd'hui, il est très important, messieurs et dames. Parce que sans présence des parents, c'est très difficile pour l'enfant. Comme une maison qui tient avec les piliers. S'il n'y a pas de piliers, il tiendra mal. C'est comme ça, les enfants. Il faut la présence des parents. Il faut l'amour d'une mère, l'amour d'un père, l'autorité, le respect. C'est très important. C'est très important parce que je vois une souffrance aujourd'hui avec beaucoup de jeunes. Il y a une fracture très, très grave. Et cette fracture, il faut qu'on la répare. Il faut qu'on la répare tous ensemble pour la paix, pour le bonheur, pour la réussite de cette jeunesse. Le monde, messieurs et dames, il est très beau. Et pour le faire encore plus beau pour cette jeunesse, c'est à nous, chaque adulte, chaque responsable, chaque politicien, chaque acteur de terrain, il doit faire son effort pour cette jeunesse aujourd'hui. Moi, j'ai dédié ma vie à cette jeunesse. C'est très important, parce que cette jeunesse, je la vois perdue. Et je ne veux pas une femme souffrir comme moi aujourd'hui. Alors je défends pour ne pas avoir un autre Mera. Je travaille aussi dans les foyers fermés, dans les foyers ouverts. Je fais aussi des projets éducatifs. Je ramène des jeunes à l'étranger pour connaître une autre civilisation, pour voir une autre chance qu'ils n'ont pas ou qu'ils ne voient pas. Et il doit ouvrir aussi son cœur, son esprit et d'avancer. C'est très important. Je travaille aussi avec des politiciens de mixer l'établissement scolaire. Le vivre ensemble, c'est d'être ensemble. Si on sépare les gens, on ne peut pas dire le vivre ensemble. Mixer aussi les quartiers, les ghettos qui sont fermés dans le monde aujourd'hui. Il faut parler de la réalité. Aujourd'hui, moi, je vais dans les quartiers en France et même dans le monde, pas qu'en France. Et on voit des gens, ils habitent toutes les communautés ensemble. Comment on peut s'intégrer? Comment on peut évoluer? Comment on peut être un bon citoyen? Un bon citoyen, il faut voir la mixité. C'est ça la richesse humaine. Voilà pourquoi je travaille aujourd'hui et j'ai tout donné, toute ma force. Je demande juste de l'aide et je suis fière d'être ici aujourd'hui parce que je peux dire mon troisième pays, mon deuxième pays, c'est très important parce que j'ai reçu le prix Cher Zaïd et il m'a donné cette fierté et m'a avancé beaucoup de mon travail et je le remercie du fond du cœur et je vous remercie du fond du cœur de me donner cette parole et de passer mon message, tout ce que j'ai fait sur le terrain. Merci beaucoup.
Your Excellency, Amina, please.
Yes. Thank you very much for this very, very touching statement you have just made. And I think I'll just take on from what I had said earlier on to what has been said, and I think especially to what you have said, Sister, in terms of solidarity. And this is so important for women. Unfortunately, what we see among women is the way we tend, when I say we, I say community of women, we tend to disparage women. And yet, we need to be together to rise together, otherwise we're going to fall. That's the first message I draw, and I think I totally concur with this. The second one is the message of hope. How do we give hope to that girl child growing up anywhere in Africa, growing up anywhere in Asia, or anywhere else? This message of hope that it is possible to reach that destination. For me, the message I have for the girl growing up in my village is to say, yes, it's possible to reach the highest position in the land through dint of hard work. And that's how my story. Hard work and believing in yourself, and I think more importantly, the power of education. I think it was not any mistake that Mandela has said that the most important weapon to change the world is education. And I think this is where we need to invest. And invest, I think, through books that has been said in terms of bridging the interfaith, the paradigm, because I come from that particular background as well, and I have been enriched precisely by this interfaith dialogue, the way that other cultures of religion have enriched me. And I didn't realize how enriched you are until you leave your country. So these are very, very powerful messages if we are going to build that society of tomorrow, that society where there are not so much breaches and, of course, so much chasm, division by virtue, because now the fault line are purely religion, because it serves the purpose of politicians, who have rightly mentioned. And I think this is something that we have to go. And I think the message that our Sister Latifa has said, it is so important, is to learn to turn the page. And I think you've done that admirably well in terms of confronting what has happened to you. But I think that what we have here in this forum, Madam Chair, is that the title of that conference is very powerful. It's the Global Forum on Women. I think, and I've said, and I will say it again, I will sound like a broken record, that any society or any country can never think of reaching full economic development if we are going to leave 52% of that resource on the bench. We have to mainstream them, we have to empower, we have to educate, and more importantly, we have to build their self-confidence. And again, this has been my story as well, building self-confidence, confronting reality, And also looking at the difference that, we are systematically being told every day we are different. But I think use the language of love, use the language of compassion. I think this is the way that we're going to build a better tomorrow. Thank you.
And what are ways that we can improve women's self-confidence? Because in so many settings, women tend to be quiet. They tend to sit at the back of the room or not lean into the conversations and the discussions. How can we build their confidence and make sure that they reach their full potential?
We have to boost their self-confidence. We have to tell them that they count. And that's why I say, in fact, has been said as well by one speaker, is that we start with the children. We have to take them by the hand. We have to tell them that, as I said, if we take them by the hand, if we educate them, if we build their self-confidence, we can be assured that the future will be there. But I think also the law has to be re-looked at, because I always say this, it sounds controversial, but if we are going to move at all, we'll need that famous quota initially. Because if we don't change the law, if we don't impose a certain quota, we will not see a presence, because men will never leave the comfort zone to give the place to women. Let's be quite honest about it. And those countries that have imposed quota initially, those are countries that have ensured representation of women on many board meetings, everything, they're there. Gradually will go away, because gradually the woman will be voted in by virtue of her competence, but initially we'll need that little help to boost. And the other thing as well is, leadership. How do you bring leadership? Leadership will be brought in when the woman is comfortable, when the woman is educated, and when the woman also has had she's been told all the time that she's capable of anything. And I think this is the messaging we have to take to the girl child. Tell her that she's capable of doing anything. And this is where the distortion starts, because we keep telling the girl, oh, you can't do science, you can't do physics, this is for boys. Happened to me as well. But I had a father who was my cheerleader, and this is where it all starts. It starts at home. It starts at that dinner table where we're all sitting together and telling that girl child, you can do it. Your brother is going to do the dishes as much as you are. So build that self-confidence, build that narrative, and tell her that she is capable of doing anything, because she is.
Not everyone is fortunate enough to have those strong pillars at home. So what can we do to create alternative pillars for them to be able to excel?
Is that for me or?
For the whole panel.
It all starts, as I said, at home, but I think if we build that community within which that child is growing up, because nowadays, if you look at the TV at the moment, it is absolutely awful in terms of messaging. But I think we need to build that community where the child has got a kind of a foundation, a rock where that child can turn to and know that it is possible. That's why I said we need to kind of foster and take a girl by the hand. And girls especially, because I know boys also matter, but women, they tend to be left aside. I think this is the whole idea of having this conference, to showcase all the challenges that us women folk face. Thank you.
Does anyone, would anyone like to add to that?
J'ai beaucoup d'expérience avec des parents. Alors, il y a certaines mamans qui n'ont pas reçu de l'amour. Ils n'ont pas reçu d'éducation. Ils ont du mal aussi quand ils sont chez eux, ils sont mariés, ils ne savent pas comment créer ce pilier. C'est pour ça qu'il y a un malaise. Aujourd'hui, je rencontre des femmes, ils me disent « Mais Latifa, je n'ai pas reçu de l'amour. Comment vous voulez que je transmette à mes enfants ?» Je dis « Tu peux chercher au fond de ton cœur. Il y a quelque chose en toi. » C'est pas que tu vas donner un cadeau à ton enfant, un téléphone ou une tablette, que c'est ça de l'amour. Non, l'amour, ça vient de toi. Il faut que tu essayes d'approcher à ton enfant, essaye de le serrer dans tes bras. Même que tu l'as pas, mais on apprend. L'amour, le cœur, il est rempli d'amour. On revient un petit peu tout jeune et on peut trouver quelque chose au fond de soi. Et ça, c'est très important. Il y a aussi des femmes qui vivent seules, avec leurs enfants qu'on oublie de parler aussi, qui souffrent, qui n'ont pas le temps de donner cet amour. Alors aussi, j'essaie d'aider ces femmes qui vivent seules, comment on peut créer l'amour aussi, malgré l'absence de papa. Parce que le père, il est important, il doit être à la maison, parce que le père, c'est l'autorité, c'est le respect et c'est le chef de famille. Mais aujourd'hui, il y a beaucoup de femmes qui vivent seules. Mais il ne faut jamais, moi j'ai dit chaque femme, il ne faut pas qu'on baisse les bras. Il faut rester toujours debout. De quelle raison ou une autre, de quelle manière ou une autre, il ne faut pas baisser les bras, c'est très important de continuer à aimer et de continuer à se battre dans la vie, et c'est comme ça qu'on réussit. Il faut toujours dire, moi j'ai jamais dit je n'arrive pas là, j'ai toujours dit j'y vais arriver, je suis comme les autres, même si j'ai fait des fautes, c'est pas grave, mais je vais m'améliorer une autre fois, une deuxième fois, une troisième fois, mais je dois continuer, je lâche rien, et pourtant je réussis, alhamdoulilah, ça fait pratiquement 11 ans sur le terrain, et je sauvais beaucoup de jeunes de ne pas partir en Syrie. Je travaille avec beaucoup de femmes qui ont eu des enfants en Syrie, qui sont rentrées aujourd'hui en France et que je travaille avec eux pour essayer de ne pas oublier son enfant parce qu'ils sont séparés de leur enfant, de penser aussi cet amour, de voir le créer en eux-mêmes dans leur cœur. C'est très important. Voilà, mon expérience beaucoup sur les mamans, sur les jeunes, et aussi, je vous dis, même des ceux qui n'ont pas des parents, qui sont dans les foyers, qu'on ne les oublie pas. Ça aussi, c'est quelque chose de très dur. Quand je parle l'éducation, la mort des parents, ils me disent « Mais madame, j'ai pas de mère, ou j'ai pas de père, ou j'ai pas du tout. » Et là, c'est très difficile. Et j'ai dit « J'espère, jeune homme, tu rencontreras un indicateur ou quelqu'un qui vous donnera de l'amour. » Je suis sûre et certain. Il faut toujours donner de l'espoir à l'enfant. Merci.
Maybe we could, as a group, we could help communities of women in their smaller communities get together, and knowing that all girls, everyone has different strengths, and have not like the Girl Guides or Girl Scouts, but create something where everyone can shine, and a regular gathering where these women who take over this aspect of their community can start to praise and strengthen a girl, perhaps, you know, that her mother is not able to do. Maybe some things like that, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. I'm so sorry because my knowledge of French is very, very poor. I didn't understand any words which you said to us, told to us, but because I'm woman, I understand what you want to tell us, and that's the maybe important message for all of us. What we need to reach the gender equality of all fields, art, science, everything, is women's solidarity. And if we are together and struggling together, maybe the world will be better and we reach this gender equality.
We're running out of time, and I just wanted to leave like one last question to the panel, which is, what piece of advice can you give our audience today in terms of tangible advice to help them reach the goals that they set for themselves?
I'm not trying to be prescriptive, but I think I think you have to believe in yourself, and also know that I have always adopted Confucius' philosophy that the best form of success is when you stand up after you have fallen. So you will keep falling, but I think your symbol of success will be every time you stand up and you do better.
That's lovely, sage advice. Thank you. Would anyone else like to?
Advice of me?
Yeah.
Yeah, be women every day. I'm struggling 33 years for big success, and I'm present now and I was on every position in my country as a president of the assembly in 2 terms, and as a first woman which won in my country as a mayor of Novi Sad. It's the second largest city. But what is big question in the front of me now? Why other women don't want to vote for the women? And if I reach and find this answer, I will be successful. And maybe you know why the other women don't like to vote for women.
Well, I think it's important to always remind anyone, that each of us has a special gift. Everyone has their special gift. And the way you can find it is to see what you're drawn to, what you really love. And if you can find and usually you're good at what you love. So I think people should be, if you notice a child has got a strength in something, to encourage them in that way. But that's with all of us, I think.
La même chose, je dirais, Dieu nous a donné un don, je pense, pour être fort, voir l'espoir, de ne pas perdre la confiance en soi. Et je pense que si on tenait la main femmes et hommes pour la paix, on peut réussir tous ensemble dans le monde. Merci.
Thank you. I would like to express my deep gratitude to all of the speakers here today for sharing their time, their experiences, their insights, and wisdom. Your stories have been truly inspiring, and your leadership and commitment to positive change are guiding light to women around the world. I'm sure that what we heard today will inspire us for the days and weeks to come. And whether we are scientists, politicians, spiritual leaders, or community activists, we all share a common commitment to making a difference, a positive difference in the world, and to inspiring others to do the same. And I'd like to thank Her Highness Sheikha Fatima bint Mubarak, Mother of the Nation, whose tireless efforts have made today's summit possible. And I'd like to thank you once again, all our guests, for joining us today. It's been a true honor and privilege to be seated here with you today.
Thank you.
نشكر كل من رئيسة الجلسة الشيخة حصة بن سلطان بن خليفة آل نهيان، مستشارة في وزارة الخارجية والتعاون الدولي الإمارات العربية المتحدة، والمتحدثين في الجلسة فخامة أمينة غريب فقيم رئيسة موريشيوس السابقة، معالي ماجا كوجكوفيك نائبة رئيس الوزراء وزيرة الثقافة جمهورية صربيا، السيدة فيرجينيا غراي هاري المدير التنفيذي لفوس فايتي للنشر الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية، السيدة لطيفة ابن زياتين مؤسس ورئيس IMAD فرنسا. ونرحب الآن بسعادة ناز شاه عضو في البرلمان البريطاني ووزيرة تخفيف الجريمة في حكومة الظل المملكة المتحدة لتلقي كلمة عن القيادات الإنسانية في المجال البرلماني والدبلوماسي.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. My name is Nasha. I'm the Member of Parliament for Bradford West. For those of you who are familiar with the UK, you will know that Bradford is the centre of the universe, and I make no apology for saying as much. So I'm the Shadow Minister for Crime Prevention, and I'm a Labour MP, and I've won 3 elections so far. And there's been a slight change to your programme, and the reason is I was due to chair a panel tomorrow morning, but unfortunately I have to return to London. So I'd like to thank the organisers for giving me some time to speak to you all this afternoon. First of all, can I just say what an honour it is to follow 4 inspiring women who have led the way on so many things, because I don't know how you guys feel, but that left me feeling very, very humbled. It's my first trip to the UAE. Is there anybody else here in the audience whose first trip it is to this area? Ah, there are some hands. Brilliant. I'm not the only one. So I came as part of a delegation last week, so I've had a whole week in the UAE. And can I first of all just say, I'd like to thank especially the parliamentarians that I met, and I can see some of them sat right here at the front. What an inspiration it's been meeting women leading agendas, be it climate change, be it future, be it economics. It has really, really been inspiring. And the reason it's been inspiring, I've had a really interesting journey into politics. So I'm not a career politician. I left school at 12 years. Actually, I'll start at the age of 6. So my father left my mum, and my mum fell into an abusive relationship, and she was abused for years and years. And when she was abused, she killed her partner who abused her, and we were very young as children. There was me, my brother, and my sister. So my mum went to prison, and she served 14 years in prison. And in addition to that, I had a forced marriage and was sent to Pakistan at the age of 12, getting married at the age of 15. So politics was definitely not on my radar to be here as a shadow minister presenting at the UAE, the Global Summit, for which I must thank Her Highness for the leadership and the vision that she's provided for all of us to be here for these next 2 days. So I ended up in politics, and some of the challenges that I see, having left school at 12, I'm not the career politician. I didn't have a usual entry into politics, but I'm a women's rights activist, because I knew back in the 1990s when I was campaigning for my mum, if a man killed a woman who's beat her for years, he will get away with having just maybe a sentence that will get for manslaughter in the UK, which was years in prison, maybe sometimes even not. But if a woman who was abused killed, she would then face potentially life, like my mum did, who served 14 years. And the purpose of prison, if you look at the women who are in prisons in the United Kingdom, the majority of them shouldn't be there because they need support. They've either been abused, been victims of abuse, or had some kind of trauma that has led them to do what they do. And they need that support. So I started off as a campaigner, and then I came into politics. My first visit to Parliament was to lobby the then Home Secretary on my mother's sentence. And that was, a very, very long time ago. And fast forward, we come here. As a politician, there are a few things that I campaign on. Bradford West is one of the large Muslim constituencies. I myself am of Pakistani heritage, and I have a large diaspora community of Pakistani heritage in my constituency. And one of the things that we see, coming back to the issue of the conference at hand, which is the role of female leaders in peace building, social integration and driving prosperity. Well, when there's hatred, when there's things like Islamophobia exist, then that prosperity is difficult to achieve. It is difficult to have people, in my case, in my instance, Muslims, achieving their full potential because of the discrimination they will experience, which is structural discrimination. And one of the things that worries me and keeps me up at night is the idea that we have a rise across the globe of otherism. We have a rise of nationalistic rhetoric. We have a rise of anti-Semitism. We have a rise of Islamophobia. And yet there are so many people. I mean, I've heard the story about the lady who lost her son, and I haven't had, and I wouldn't want that kind of experience to be able to have to go through that, to have the resilience that she has displayed before us this afternoon. But where does that leave us as women leaders? each and every one of us to be here, whether we've come from a different country, whether you've come locally. The fact is you've travelled here, you are in a very nice place, you are listening to amazing, amazing women. And there is something for us to take away from that. And what is our responsibility in building that peace? What is our responsibility, not just the women, but equally the men in the room as well? What is our responsibility as leaders to take away from what we have here and spread it into our communities? What is the learning? What is the takeaway for us? So I work on Islamophobia, and in the UK we've developed a definition for Islamophobia, which is a type of racism that attacks our Muslimness. Because Muslimness isn't something necessarily, it doesn't have to be visible. We know that women experience more Islamophobia. There's gendered Islamophobia that we need to address. So it's something that we need to discuss. But I also know that there was a Sikh man in America that was killed. He was wearing a turban. He was not a Muslim. I know people who have been attacked because they've been perceived to be Muslim. So that definition is very, very important for us. And I'm happy to share that, and you can look at it on the All-Party Parliamentary Group. So it's a cross-party group of politicians who work on that subject. The other subject that's close to my heart is the issue of Kashmir. We've talked about the Uyghurs, we've talked about Rohingya, we've talked about women. And women pay the price of conflict and war. Women pay the price, bear the brunt, and we've heard that from speakers all day today. Women and children bear the brunt of the cost of living crisis that we're experiencing in the United Kingdom, of the energy crisis, the poverty. All of these things affect women and children more. And then if we're really serious about the future of tomorrow, the future of tomorrow is our children, right? Our children need that education. And how are we, what is our responsibility as leaders? Our responsibility is, I'd like to think that the purpose of our life is to live a life of purpose. And if you are living a life of purpose, you need to be leaving the world a slightly better place than how you found it. And that includes the issue of climate change, the global challenges of otherism, the global challenges of hatred, the global challenges. Is our world going to be what it needs to be for our future generations? And I would argue right now, it isn't. So my ask of you guys, and the question for you to take away and play with, and have a discussion about, is what are we doing as leaders? We are here today. What are we taking back? The Kashmir issue I come back to because if I go to Pakistan, I'm seen as a daughter of Kashmir. And I'm very passionate about the people of Kashmir. I'm very passionate. I see what is happening in Kashmir. I see the militarized occupation of Kashmir. And that is not okay. It is not okay for those children of Kashmir not to have education, not to have equality. It is, and there's many, many issues in the world, but that is one thing I'm very, very passionate about. And I hope, if you don't know the story, that there are loads of women here who I've met and I've talked about, and they've got issues that you're dealing with in your countries. And I take my hats off to you. I really, really do. And I stand in solidarity with each and every person in this room who is fighting a battle, whatever that battle may be. But ultimately, that battle is to make this world a better place than when we came in and how we found it. That is ultimately our challenge. I'm nearly wrapping up because I've only got a little time. Now, usually in Parliament, we have the Speaker who tells us you've got a 3-minute limit. So I've even got a clock here because otherwise I would have gone on. But one of the things I want to say is how inspired. I want to finish on the vision of the words that Amina used, were hope. She talked about hope. What is the hope for the future? And for me, the hope is the fact that we are all here under one roof having these conversations. Whether we take public office, and I would encourage those of you who are here who would not consider public office, do consider public office. I know that I've changed the law in the 8 years that I've been in Parliament. I know that if I'm not at the table, I'm not having that discussion, I'm not being heard. And everybody has a space, but I would really, really encourage you guys to think about taking public office, because it is an honour like no other, and it gives you a platform like no other to talk about the things that you care about. So I really, really wanted to finish on hope. And that just doesn't have to be public office in any way, shape or form. Whatever it is that keeps you up at night, whatever it is that drives you, your passions. You know, the biggest barrier we were talking about earlier, the biggest barrier is us. I am my biggest barrier. The voice in my head that tells me, asks me, why am I doing it? Who am I not to do it is the question we need to ask ourselves. Who are we not to be the bearers of change? Who are we not to be the leaders of this world, each and every single one of you? And on that note, I'm a Muslim, a very proud Muslim, and the tradition of Islam requires me to be the best version of me. And I'd say humanity requires us, each and every one of us, to be the best version of you. And on that final thing, here is to strong women. May we know them, may we be them, may we raise them. Thank you.
نشكر سعادة ناز شاه عضو في البرلمان البريطاني ووزير تخفيف الجريمة في حكومة الظل المملكة المتحدة. ضيوفنا الكرام، نود التنويه بأن كلمة الشيخة الدكتورة موزة بن طحنون آل نهيان مستشارة في وزارة الخارجية والتعاون الدولي دولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة ستكون بعد الاستراحة. ونود التنبيه بأن التصوير سيكون ممنوع منعاً باتا خلال كلمة الشيخة. الرجاء الالتزام بالتعليمات.
Our esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen, we would like to inform you that the speech of Sheikh Dr. Moza bin Tahnoon Al Nahyan, advisor in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, will be after the break. And we would like to inform you that photography is strictly prohibited during her speech. So please confirm to that. Thank you so much.
ضيوفنا الكرام، نود التنويه بأن كلمة الشيخة الدكتورة موزة بن طحنون آل نهيان مستشارة في وزارة الخارجية والتعاون الدولي
بل الذين كفروا في تكذيب والله من ورائهم محيط بل هو قرآن مجيد في لوح محفوظ. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والسماء والطارق وما أدراك ما الطارق النجم الثاقب إن كل نفس لما عليها حافظ فلينظر الإنسان مما خلق خلق من ماء دافق يخرج من بين الصلب والترائب إنه على رجعه لقادر يوم تبلى السرائر فما له من قوة ولا ناصر والسماء ذات الرجع والأرض ذات الصدع إنه إنه لقول فصل وما هو بالهزل إنهم يكيدون كيدا وأكيد كيدا فمهل الكافرين أمهلهم رويدا. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم سبح اسم ربك الأعلى الذي خلق فسوى والذي قدر فهدى والذي أخرج المرعى فجعله غثاء أحوى سنقرئك فلا تنسى إلا ما شاء الله إنه يعلم الجهر وما يخفى ونيسرك لليسرى